I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to this Tuesday, October 18th Board of Commissioners meeting. First item is public comment, which is for anyone who is not on the agenda or not attached to an item on the agenda. So I will open it up, and if there is, if you could kind of, at any point, if you have something to say, if you could come up kind of towards the front, hopefully the microphone and YouTube will catch it over here. So, okay. Seeing none, I will move on to, we have Judge Mohler with a permanent part-time interpreter position. Good morning, Judge Mohler.
Good morning. Email Jim just to kind of summarize everything. We currently, both courts use an interpreter for a number of our hearings, but it's on an as-needed basis. And so the lady that we use has another job opportunity. She wants to stay with the courts, but we're trying to get her a more regular schedule, some additional hours. And so we want to create a permanent part-time position for that. We use her in our court systems for whatever type of hearings. Most of them are criminal, but we use it for divorce, protective order hearings, whatever the need is. Those same clients may then also go to probation or to community corrections, and the interpreter services are needed for those also. For those same cases, they may need translation work when they're meeting with their attorneys or outside the office for depositions, things like that. And so she provides those same services. And those are all paid through our court. Both courts have an interpreter budget, and we just pay those on an hourly rate right now. So what our plan or proposal would be to get that as a more permanent schedule, still part-time. We're looking at around probably 18 to 20 hours per week with some set hours. And we would work out those, probably look at 3 days a week with set hours, with still some flexibility for as-needed services. With our current budgets right now, the majority of that could still be paid for both courts' budgets. Superior Court's budget yearly is $12,500. Circuit Courts is $5,200. We would be able to put most of that money. We still have to save a little bit aside in case vacations, things like that, we need somebody else to perform those same services. But the majority of those budgets could be used to pay for this. Right now, additional times when the interpreter is needed at probation or community correction, those are paid from the community corrections user fee budget. And I've talked to Brett, and he is willing to continue making that money available as needed. The other benefit we think would be with having regular hours would be also then when the courts are not using the interpreter, to have her available for any other office in the courthouse. Could be for meetings like this. It could be help at the treasurer's office, the auditor's office. At any point, it would be available for everybody. And I think that would be a benefit also. For the downtime, when she's not doing those things, there are certain forms and documents we could have her assistance in getting those translated. So we've got update forms both in Spanish and English there. Physically, the proposal right now with what the space in the courthouse is, I've got an extra desk area in Circuit Court. We could put her physically in Circuit Court for now. I've got an extra computer that's not being used. We could get that hooked up. So probably the only thing would be to be a phone. I've talked to Tim about that, and I think we can get all that put together. So I think all of this can be accomplished with really no impact to the budget. I did speak to the council about that and gave them that same information. They gave it approval. I think they'll just give us more consistency and then also offer those services to everybody else in the courthouse.
One question I thought of, I guess, just so we're on the same page, do you envision this position to be in the commissioner's direct supervision, or like a county employee under the commissioners, correct, and working with the courts in terms of?
Obviously, we would hope the court schedule would take priority, and we'll try to have regular hours. But yeah, I think since it's going to be servicing everybody, it would be under yours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we could, what we could do is work with HR to create the job description. I mean, we can start the process, but kind of do it after the fact with them and get kind of all the details worked out. And I think we could, I'm going out on a limb because I know you already went to council, but they can, I guess, be mad at me at this, but I think we can find some money to contribute to offset so that it allows your budget to keep a little bit of room for additional interpreters if you need them, and have that cushion, and then the county pay a portion of it, especially if we're going to utilize some of the services.
And again, the majority of ours, I mean, this is what it goes towards. We do have a grant every year that we go through the state. So we have, from time to time, the need for a sign language interpreter. We pay that from our grant money because that is authorized for that. So really, everything in these two budgets, other than if there's just some unavailability or she will be on vacation, things like this, that's what this money is used for. So I think the majority of it you can save, count on that, because we would need it the rest of it for our normal budget.
And then the second part of that, which you mentioned, is I started to work with Envoy to find space in the renovation of the courthouse where that position will have its own office space. So bear with us for a little bit of time, and I think we can make it work for everybody at that point.
Yep.
So.
And with our budgets now, with what we have left, I checked with both Superior Court and Circuit Court budgets. I mean, we've got enough to even start this if you wanted to do it like as of November the 1st. We've got the budget to do that. Again, we always have the additional money from community corrections that they currently pay for some of their services anyway. But our current budgets with what we have left as of now, I think would take care of everything, even if we started November the 1st.
Okay.
I'll make the motion that we accept the proposal as mentioned today and effective on November the 1st, Sodium Driveway.
I will second that. So motion carries 2-0. We will create the permanent part-time interpreter position. That will be utilized specifically to the courts, but also for the whole county under the direct supervision of the commissioners working with the judges.
Okay,
So,
very good. I'll get everybody on the details. All right, thank you.
thank you, Brett. Next up is Mr. Phil Triplett with a petition to vacate an alley. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning. Phil Triplett appearing on behalf of Joyce Newman. This is an alley vacation petition that we filed. Ms. Newman owns a barn that is currently built on the alley. The barn has been there for about 100 years. They've been able to trace it back to 1923, so for 99 years. And the barn is in need of some work. It's starting to become dilapidated, and they're unable to get any construction authorization or to sell it because they discovered that the barn is actually located within the alley. We've spoken with the neighbor, and the neighbor consented to the alley being vacated and that the entirety of the alley going to Ms. Newman. Tim and Melissa Newman are here on behalf of Joyce, if you've got any questions for them. But we would request that the alley be vacated to allow them to take action with the barn, either to be able to work on it or to get the property sold to somebody who could then fix it up or tear it down.
Okay. I guess I should open it up. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this petition? Okay, seeing none. Bert, do you have any
I
questions?
really have no questions other than how much of the alley are we talking about that's being encroached on, and how much is it set on?
The barn sits on the majority of the alley. So the underlying deed that Ms. Newman obtained is for 30 feet off of the top of the lot. And just based on our kind of rough estimates, the barn basically takes up the majority of the alley. One of the issues we dealt with was if we were to split the alley like normal and divide it in half, where would be there, and the barn would be encroaching on the neighbor's line.
Property,
Yeah.
or whoever.
Yeah, so that's why we spoke to the neighbor, and the neighbor consented to have the entire alley vacated to the new.
I personally have no objections to approving the petition, so I'll make the motion that we approve it.
Okay, I second. So we pass ordinance 2022-10. The only thing I saw is it did not have Bert listed on the signature page.
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll get you a new one.
So we just have to get us some updated ones and we'll get them signed.
Sure,
So,
we will do that.
but it passes. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Next up is Cat Bell we'll start out with the area plan update first, maybe, and then we will move to the LUPAC 10-22369, Ordinance 2022-11.
Yeah, I don't really have an update. Main thing here is the impact today.
Okay.
So this is in regards to the commercial building. It was formerly a church on west side of North State Road 75. And it has been vacated as a church for several years. And new people have purchased the building and was wanting to rezone the area from R2 to B2 in order to have a reception hall there. Looking at our ordinance, B2 district was the least restrictive, or the first district that they could go into, that would be a permitted use then. And it also is a little more restrictive in terms of intense uses. So we kind of felt like that would probably be the best rezoning for it. Now, this building, although rezoning this parcel, this property, would make it a spot zoning, but given the fact that the building itself is really not practical for residential use, it would have to be brought up to residential code, like egress windows and meet the energy code. And then of course it also already has a parking lot there. So more practical use would be for a commercial type use there. And also wanting to try to do it as less intense of one. Now when it was brought before the Area Plan Commission, there were some citizens there that are neighbors around there that did appear and had some concerns about it being rezoned. And I know one of them is here too, and then also the petitioner is also here. And so if you have any questions for them. But the area plan did recommend a favorable recommendation just because of the building itself being a more practical use for commercial. Some of the concerns that seem to be voiced at the meeting was concerns about this. It could be a permitted use for a tavern or a liquor store. So they were kind of concerned about that. I think you received maybe an email from Liz a couple days ago in regards to possible commitments. If you were to decide to approve this for rezoning, you could place some commitments on that, to where if the current owner decides to change use or they sell it, that there could be some restrictions there so that we don't have those kind of conditions come up. So.
All right, I will first open it up. Is there anyone that would like to speak on LUPAC? Mark, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I mean, I could I've never been this before, but the other two guys couldn't make it to the meeting. I could, so
you're representing the group.
I guess so.
All right, well, you're on first.
Yeah, the Slifer family that owns the farm ground near it, and I own the farm ground around it, across the street from it. And Andy Armstrong owns a home and a little bit of property across the street from it. And we understand that, the people bought the building, they need to be able to use it and make a living off of it. And we were really fine with their suggestion of, having showers and small parties and stuff there. I think it would be a great use. They said they weren't going to use the outdoors for parties or anything like that, or music or anything. So we were really good with it, but they were concerned that, there are a lot of these kind of businesses around, and if it didn't stay that, what might it become next? And it's kind of interesting because, like Slifers didn't know that it was zoned R2. They thought it was all zoned ag because it's always been ag, but it can't be zoned ag because it's too close to town. So I mean, that wasn't really an argument, but it's like we were concerned that they might interfere with the agricultural use of the property, but there already is an interference with that because it's already residential.
Yeah.
So, we couldn't have to confine animals or anything like that on it anyway. So once we got past all that, the only concern was the potential for a tavern, nighttime liquor store, some negative use. And Liz is the one that suggested that there could be a covenant put on it and that might be done. And so I just basically came to see what was going to happen.
Okay. All right.
So, thank you.
Kat, you said the petitioner's here?
Yes, yes.
Anything you would like to?
No, I'm confused. They pretty much said it all, but, I mean, yeah, technically we were trying to use the space for small parties. I did tell them we didn't want anything bigger. There would be no parties outside. It's gonna be all inside, baby showers, graduations, just small community parties. I ain't trying to go anything big. I want people to take care of our building, obviously, so we ain't trying to go for anything big. Honestly, if if you guys do put a cover, or what's it called? The commitment
Yeah.
to it, I mean, honestly, we already had discussed it at the meeting, who would want to put a liquor store out there? Or a bar or anything in the middle of nowhere, honestly. I wouldn't care if we did put it or not. But if you don't, then that's fine either, but, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I guess I'd be open to adding the commitment that it cannot be a tavern or a liquor store. I don't know if you have thoughts or other additional thoughts.
Well, I agree also that we ought to put some tags on it at the back end so that you don't have that going forward. You may not have that intentions now, but a year from now, something happens and we sell the property, you sell the property.
Yeah.
The next person may think, gee whiz, it's open to whatever we want to do. And I really think that for the protection of the other landowners around, I would suggest that, we work or have some commitments drawn up and presented to us so that we could see exactly what we're thinking about. So I think that we should take some additional steps to protect that going forward, it doesn't go in the wrong direction for us.
So do you want to have this tabled and have the commitments drawn up and discussed at the next meeting, or do you want to pass with the commitments?
Well, Tom, I almost think we ought to see what the commitments are going forward, shouldn't we? Or can we do it and just simply make it so broad that nothing else gets painted in that direction?
Right. The one concern would be if you just would mention a very narrow scope as liquor stores or taverns, okay, then it could open it up to other things as well. That may not be desirable. You may want to broaden the language in that, if there's any modifications other than the current use, that it should be brought back in front of the APC or the commissioners for final approval of any new uses. Something like language along that, I think, would be more, would cover everything much better that way. It is brought back in front of the right boards in case that there should be any changes. And that would be my suggestion. And that language is in there, I would be fine with it.
So, okay, so we'll work on drawing up those commitments, and then we will bring it back before this board at our next meeting to officially approve after Tom has worked through the language and we've seen it, and then we will be able to make that
Okay, sounds
hopefully
good.
commitment to move forward with approving that ordinance.
Thank you.
I didn't agree with that. That means the next meeting is Monday, November 7th. And it will be here again, I believe. So, all right, thank you, Kat.
Thank you.
Kat, one couple of questions too. Sorry. A couple of things that you may want to forward onto Liz. I've had I've had 3 complaints in the last week or so with the solar farms. And I don't know if you've had any communication with them recently, but it appears like there's a lot of trucks changing their routes now for some reason.
Okay.
And there are several places that are starting to do damage on other people's property. So I think we need to throw that out to them and let them be aware that, some of the dump trucks, I think they're now coming down the 425 off of 75 and causing issues there. So I don't know if you want to reach out to them and ask them to kind of, put the red flag up.
Liz is at conference until Thursday. I'll get with her Thursday and
That'd
find
be
out if she's having a recent dialogue, and then we'll reach out to her.
Okay.
So you say it's from 75 on 425?
Yeah, I think 475 and then also 500. There's some corners there that are also being turned. So
Okay.
I know that one particular one was on the corner of 75 and 425 on the right-hand side. They've gotten off from the road into the yard, wiped out a couple flowers, which are going to die anyway today. But that's and then also, if you would put it on the headlines, I believe the address in Antioch, there's a property that I'd like for you guys to address. Antioch, and I believe it's like maybe the 5th house as you're going towards Antioch after you cross the main road. There's a large, almost a 3-story property.
We've had a discussion about it before.
Okay.
So it'd be maybe 5, I think it's the 5th house north or south of Antioch Road.
Yes.
Yeah. The white one that's falling in, it has the septic that's falling in. I believe the owners live actually down on Antioch Road. It was their parents' homestead, but I think we can check into it. We need to check into it again, but we had mentioned this to Liz before, probably sometime late spring, I'm guessing. So maybe provide an update and see where it's at. So
What was the concerns then?
I think it's the property's falling in. The house
House is falling in.
Okay.
The grass is taller than I am, and it's completely surrounded by overgrowth, and it appears like in very poor shape. So
Yeah.
I believe it's 3888 or 3883,
I think you're right, yes.
something like that.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I'll look more into it. I've had the complaint on the grass and have discussed with the owner who is now living out of state. But I do have a phone number for them.
yeah,
I did get that, so.
that property needs to be addressed on the outside. The neighbors, I'm sure, are
I think it's 3880.
3880.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about 3880. If
So
you
the house,
look
the
into
house
that,
is falling in and.
well, it's just in terrible condition. Yard is simply out of control. There's just overgrowth everywhere.
Okay.
And my guess is it's getting to be a safety issue. Somebody starts playing around inside the house and stuff. It's not going to be a good situation. So they need
Well,
to address it.
I had good luck with them last year, I think it was, the barn was falling in and they did get that removed, so.
Yeah.
So hopefully I can,
I put that on our radar then.
okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Next up is Rick Campbell with a highway update. Morning, Rick.
Morning. In the county highway department in the surveyor's office, we sent letters out to the people that live in East Meadows. They have water issues out there for like 20 years, and we're out there right now recutting the side ditches to where they were originally. And when we get done, we'll blow through the driveway pipes as needed and replace pipes as needed. It won't cost any of those people anything out there. We're just trying to get some of that water dried up for them. And we're out there working right now. And I also, Bridge 36, there was a delay in pouring the deck because there's a cement shortage and they're pouring the deck today. And it bridge should be done sometime in November. I was wondering if the commissioners wanted to do a ribbon cutting in November or wanted to wait.
That'd be fine with me. What, end of November or roughly what time frame are they thinking it'll be?
I'm guessing about the middle part of November.
Okay, yeah, just let us know once it's complete and we'll get get something set
And
up.
also Butler, Fairman, and Cipher have submitted the final plans to NDOT for Bridge 55. So we're moving ahead with that. That's about all I got.
Okay. I think you and Mr. Walden gave us a couple things to sign and look at, so we'll just go through them now.
Yeah,
The first one is the certificate of substantial completion, and this would be for the community crossings.
yes, we got community crossings done. I didn't want to say anything last meeting because I didn't have any figures yet.
But this is signing a change order, which is very rare. It's a decrease of $91,000. Usually we see these and they're always increased. And also the total project came in about $250,000 under budget. So that's a huge win for us. So the first item would be signing the authorization to, I guess, accept the contract price change, which is a decrease of $91,000.
I'll make the motion that we sign for $92,000.
I will second. And the second item is a administrative settlement for right-of-way acquisition. Do you know which bridge?
55.
55. So this is for Bridge 55. So it's
The stall lady.
okay. So it's an additional right-of-way, and it's for $5,850. So it looks like it just needs my signature. So I'll
And everything for the president to sign.
Okay. Thanks, Rick. Our next item of business is to amend the Arpa ordinance that took place in May of 21. And so a little background, we had received the American Rescue Plan funds that the communities did across the state and across the country. And so we received $6,293,126. And we originally created the ordinance and had it very broad till we could kind of narrow down what direction we wanted to invest those dollars. And so the committee, the ARPA committee, has entertained multiple requests over, I'm going to guess, $20 to $25 million worth of requests of different options of how we should invest this money. And we have kind of narrowed it down to make this amendment, which would allocate $5 million to the projects of the annex and the courthouse. And so this would be the ordinance 2022-12, which makes that amendment to allow $5 million to be allocated towards that project, those projects, which would then leave us roughly $1.3 million that we still have available to other projects that we're hearing requests for and are getting. So one of the main reasons that we're doing this amendment is because Envoy, our contractor for the bot for the annex and courthouse, has obviously started doing a lot of work behind the scenes. I know it's not right out in front where everyone can see it, but there's planning and design and all that. And so we're starting to get the bills due that will need to be paid. So that's essentially what we're doing, is freeing up this cash flow to be able to get that project going in the right direction. So I think this was on the drive, had a chance to look at it. I don't know if you have any questions or thoughts on it for, but Tom put together the amended ordinance. So we've had it looked at and approved by multiple sources that have expertise in the Arpa realm specifically. So
I'll make the motion that we approve the amendment to the ordinance of the ARPA project so that we can continue or start paying those fees and bills as they come in.
okay, I'll second that. So motion to approve ordinance 2022-12. right, next item is a pay app to McGuire Iron for the water tower. The payments for $161,868.60. It's been reviewed by our engineer at HWC, and they have signed off that the work has been completed. So,
Motion to approve.
second. I believe it's signed by the building. So. All right, new business. The first item is we have our health insurance renewal. So see if I can do a good job of explaining this because it was sure a process. We had been in a place where our insurance had been set for 3 years, and so we had to go back and renew or look at different marketplace. Our initial offer for our current plan and current coverage came in at roughly 23% increase, which was substantial when you're considering that our annual premiums run into over $2 million. And so working with LHD and Bob Paya, we went back to the drawing board and started having some more negotiations, and we were able to get our current plan renewed for an 8% increase, down from 23. And we thought that was pretty good, but then we also negotiated an alternative plan that was able to get it down to a 2.3% increase. And so our health insurance, what we negotiated here are a couple things. So let me walk through it. So the 2.3% increase, which is the renewal that we have in front of us, will be completely absorbed by the county. That will make it 7 years in a row that no employee has had their premiums increase. So your premiums for 23 will stay the same. The only change that we had to make to achieve this was the deductible had to go up $500, and then the co-insurances went up $10. But running the numbers, if we passed along the increase, that was going to be more than the $500 to the employees. So the county is absorbing the full 2.3% increase. The employees are now going to have no increase in their health insurance for 23. And if we can achieve our biometric, which we will do a good job of trying to get the word out this winter, but if we can achieve our 50% of our employees getting the biometric test at the clinic, we can lock this rate in for 2 years. So I think that is huge. We will go on 8 years of no health insurance premium increases, which is unheard of in today's marketplace. So I'm trying to think, did I leave anything out, Britt, that you can think of? We had multiple meetings with our health insurance committee and conversations about this, and this was kind of the recommendation of the committee. We felt that one of the important things is, as you guys know, council approved the 10% salary increase for 23, and we didn't want that 10% to be 8% or 6%. So now the full 10% is getting passed on to the employees to help with curb off some of the inflationary concerns that are going on economically. So well, we'll have to change that because the one we had 2.3. So any questions?
Well, I think that sounds like the insurance committee has done a good job because it's a every year battle, and we're very fortunate that's what we're going to be able to obtain. So I'll make the motion that we accept the committees and the recommended program that we have presently supported. So I'll make a motion we approve it.
Okay, I will second that we will accept IU Health's renewal offer at the 2.3%. So looks like the wrong paperwork was sent, so we'll get that corrected and signed. So okay, so I guess for the department heads in the room, I think maybe that's the message we can pass on to the employees, is that there will be no health insurance premium increases. Deductible will go up, but and co-insurance, but the premium will not, and the county will absorb the 2.3 increase.
Hey, just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Did this include any sheriff retirees insurance, or is that something going forward that's gonna be discussed?
We've had the discussion, and I don't want to speak for the committee 100%, but I believe the recommendation that we're going to go is they can be on the insurance, but the county's not going to pay any percent of it, so they'll have to cover 100%. But we have to offer it to them, but we won't contribute anything.
Is
So
there a idea when that's gonna happen, by chance?
when they'll be able to be on it,
Yeah.
I think here we'll try and make sure it happens in 23, but I think we already offer it actually. I think we're required to offer it by
Right.
statute, so we believe it would be available when we have our sign up going into 23. So that should be in November, correct, Britt?
Yes.
So
Okay.
if I will confirm with our health insurance provider, and I'll let you guys know at the next meeting or shoot you an email. All right, next up is Asphalt Materials agreement. So this is, let's see if I can get this right, Rick, you may have to correct me. This is an amendment to our current contract or an extension for the liquid asphalt bid, which will lock in our 22 prices for 23, rather than having to put it out for bid. And obviously the expectation with anything right now is that there will be an increase. So we're estimating this could save somewhere in between the $10,000 and $15,000 range based on the volume that we use. So it's allowable under IC code that we can extend the agreement, and this would be the contract to approve locking in the 22 prices for 23 with Asphalt Materials. Does that sound correct?
I make the motion that we approve the asphalt material agreement and amendment.
Second. The next item is, Gina couldn't be here today, but it is the amendment with our GUTS, which is the Government Utility Technology Service, the contractor that conducts the tax sale. So somehow it did not get renewed in 2020, so 2022, so they worked this year without a contract. This is the amendment for 2 years. We've been with this company since 2011. So they're kind of getting caught up on the contractual part to continue the service that is provided. So
Motion to approve the tax vendor request.
second. And so there's no change to taxpayers. This stays the same. We're just keeping it going forward. Next up is department heads. Any department heads that way? Chris. Good morning.
Morning. Just a quick letter that's going to be going out here in November. Just a rent increase. It's always modest. I do it every 2 to 3 years. It's $25 a month increase because the last thing we want to do is put stress or strain on the residents. You're talking 3 to 5% increase. It's normally every 3 years. Unfortunately, I'm having to do it a year early because of everything that's going on. And usually you guys, there's no issue with approval on that, because again, I definitely look at each individual resident's circumstances and definitely don't want to put a strain on them. So try to be modest with an increase.
I think it's more than feasible. It's not more than fair.
All right, and I'll make sure those go out to the family and all the residents. Second thing, we talked about the boiler. It's up and running, but You know, it's the third company that's made the recommendation. So the one thing I want to throw out, I heard about the ARP funds last week from Jennifer, who runs Howard County Home. Her commissioners and council approved some ARP funds. Theirs was more for renovation, remodeling, kitchens, bathrooms, things like that. So it's just something to keep in mind. I mean, we're talking a boiler, not a jacuzzi. So I want to throw that out there. If there's funds, if we could throw our name in there, definitely, it's something we're going to have to look at. We're at the 22-year mark where the boiler's starting to go down. And he was pulling parts off of this and that to get it going this time. So.
Did Envoy come in, or Amoresco come?
They did,
They
yeah.
give us a quote on the range?
I was gonna say, what's-
He was gonna work on it. The one I got was around 70 from Irish, who we have a contract with. That does our maintenance, but I don't think he got back to me on a quote.
Do you think you could follow up and maybe bring us 2 or 3 quotes?
That would.
We'll see what we can do going into 23 here.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking, maybe 23, obviously, you know, knock on wood. Bert brought up the fact, and then when you start having trouble starting it up, I'm gonna have to put the fire out again, and we need to look at it.
Yeah.
And you guys know, we get every use out of everything.
Yeah.
It's old.
And I think, obviously, timing would not be great trying to replace it during winter.
Well,
So if
no.
we can get through winter
That's our goal.
and then get it updated going into the 23
Absolutely.
winter would probably, if, you know, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
You know, the Band-Aids will hold.
And that's what we're looking at. That's kind of our plan. And Ken and I are getting together this week, working on contingencies like Bert brought up, in case what if it does go out? You know, we've got residents, we need to jump on the situation immediately. So we're working on some contingency plans for that. Second thing, I just want to thank you guys. I know the hard work, Bert and Britt and I were on early insurance committee, so I know what you guys want to do. So I appreciate it. It means a lot. But Britt, you know, I'd encourage too. I know we had an issue later in the year that a lot of people didn't get down to get to 50%, and there's confusion. But just put out that they please let their employees know, keep the communication open. I'm gonna go back and tell my folks now. That's big. And then also encourage people to get in and do the 50% screen. You can't beat that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I've got.
I'll thought about it.
We'll be even more active in finding ways to communicate the screening, because has such a huge implication,
Absolutely.
you
A
know.
lot of people go, I push and encourage, but I want to make sure everybody in the county does too. The department heads, the key is communication.
Yeah.
People need to understand times are tough, but this is big. 8 years without an increase, that's unheard of.
Yeah.
And the fact that, what is the amount you save?
$600 for the year.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That, and then 10% increase, again, thank the council commission, that's unheard of. My friends are bad. I said, go to Clinton County, get the job.
Hey, Chris, before you go,
Yes, sir.
elevator service, you know, we're gonna be looking at a contract probably coming up, renewal and so forth, and the company that we spoke about, you're still in favor
It's
of.
gonna save me money. And the rates for after hours are cheaper. And he already found some things our company's currently not doing, but they all do that when they come to the site.
Yeah, so you're still okay with that company if we go forward with it, that's, because obviously I think we're talking about several other elevators now that we're gonna probably throw into that same
I
job.
think they'll give us some leverage if we have a lot of elevators instead of people having individual contracts.
Exactly.
Give us some more.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I'm on board 100%. I'll look at it, talk to the guy. I will get those quotes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
Anybody else? Renee?
Yes. So I think I briefly had had a conversation to let you know, I was contacted by the Washington Township trustee who told me he has entered into a new fire contract for fire coverage for Washington Township. So that township is going to be split between Frankfurt Fire and out of Tippecanoe County, Clarks Hill, Laramie Volunteer Fire Department. Yesterday, I met with members from Tippecanoe County Sheriff's Department because they dispatch for them. And I met with the fire chief and the assistant fire chief from Clarks Hill, Laramie. You know, I still have many concerns, but we're trying, the trustee has entered in the contract and it begins January 1.
How long is the contract?
They told me 1 year. I believe Jeff had told me 2, but they told me yesterday it was 1 year. There are lots of things that have to take place before that can happen. And We are trying to figure out what is the best way. One, you know, I am an advocate for our folks in Clinton County, and we already know when we take those calls, we are dispatching immediately the appropriate agency, whether it's police, fire, or EMS. And so we're trying to come up with the best way that's going to still save time. We are going to look into the capability of us being able to tone Clarksville's fire department. Going into the meeting, I really didn't think that was an option. So I'm going to be doing some checking with Raycom and things. I'm looking also for your support, and I think I'll have this. These are not going to be fees that are going to be incurred by my department. I feel that if there are fees to reprogramming of things, those need to be sent to Washington Township trustee. Those are not, I do not feel that those should be coming out of my department. We did not ask for this, and I feel he's made that decision for fire coverage, and we have to make that work. And so I feel like those fees, if there are fees incurred, those need to be sent to him, and I will have a conversation with him, but I kind of wanted to give you a heads up leading into this. I still am not, you know, there are things that we know now in Clinton County by us dispatching everything. If we would have a call in that township now, and they're already Station 11 would be on that call, and we get a second call in that area, we know that they are on a call. We are not going to know that Tippecanoe County is in a call, already on a call in Tippecanoe County. You know, there are many things that we do ahead of time in Clinton County because we dispatch for everyone. You know, these guys are great, and we had a good meeting yesterday, but there's lots of things that have to take place, including mapping that needs to be changed to reflect all of these changes. You know, we will have to have another meeting. I said yesterday, we will need to include members from the Clinton County Sheriff's Office and Clinton County EMS, because now they're going to be working as well in that area. If we have calls in that area, they are going to be working with them when we have accidents and things like that. 2 miles of the interstate from the 158 to the 160 will now be covered by Clarksville, Laramie Fire Department, and not our local. And we have, as we're going into winter, those calls will be nonstop on slide offs. And I guarantee if we have bad weather, they're going to be busy in Tippecanoe as well as us. But he's entered into a contract. I made it clear to him I needed like updated maps so that we could get, and he told me a couple weeks ago he would get those to me, and I have yet to see those. I kind of have an idea of what it's going to be, but I need to have lots of those things take place. But I just kind of wanted to give you an update. I'm going to be looking into those things and what we can do to see if this happens. And if it can't happen, then we kind of go back to the drawing board. And I don't like that option because that is going to slow us down. If we can tone them, that's going to save us lots of time. But if we can't, and we have to call Tippecanoe County and request that they dispatch them, we're going to lose minutes. And what I explained to the trustee on the phone, my concern with that is a call that comes in as a small fire, because we are losing valuable time. What came in as a small fire can quickly go to a full-on structure fire. And now we are the ones chasing our tails, trying to get additional resources sent because we didn't know if maybe they're not available to run. You know, I am thankful for every volunteer that we have in our county and other counties, but the reality is sometimes they're not available. But we know if we dispatch and we're not hearing anybody, we are sending additional resources, and we're going to be lacking in that. I have lots of concerns about this. And, you know, I don't have any control over him. I wish, you know, he had a brief conversation with me in passing about this. And, you know, I brought my concerns when he called me about this. And he said, well, you know, he didn't know. Well, no, because he doesn't work in public safety, and I do. And there are lots of things that I wish he'd had further conversation with me about. So, but if he's entered into a contract, we have to make it work. And like I said, I am always here for our folks in Clinton County. You know, it's our responsibility to start those appropriate responses. So, but I just kind of wanted to give you a full-on detailed version at this point.
Well, I think it's good to get the full version out there public.
Correct, because I think many people do not know what's happening. And, you know, if anybody has questions, I'm more than happy to answer any questions, you know, regarding this and how we handle dispatching public safety in Clinton County. And I do have concerns about this, and it has nothing to do and nothing against the gentleman in the department at Clarksville, nothing at all to do against them.
Renee, when you spoke to Jeff,
Yes.
obviously he doesn't feel like he can get out of the contract, or did he even make an attempt to try to do so?
I don't know if he did. He told me that he had signed the contract and it was to go into effect January 1. He did tell me that he had 60 days. So if they decide to terminate the contract, there is a leadway of like 60 days to.
Who did he sign the contract with?
He signed it with Frankfurt Fire for one section, which that's fine because we dispatch Frankfurt Fire, but the other half is with the Clarks Hill Laramie Fire Department out of Clarks Hill.
Which is totally volunteer.
Yes, yes.
I think it's more than fair if there's additional costs that they get passed on to.
Yes,
Washington.
yes, absolutely. I don't feel like that is for us to incur if there are costs.
And I think it's completely fair that if there's issues, that you have his cell phone number and you pass it on to those residents when they call in and complain.
Yes.
You know, we all have to live and die by the decisions we make, and
Mhm.
so
Yes.
if there's consequences, he'll have to answer those.
Yes, yes.
All right,
I agree.
Thank you.
thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Rodney? Good morning.
Morning. First of all, I'll echo Chris's sentiment and fact on behalf of all my employees, county employees, that we appreciate all the hard work you've done both for looking at the inflationary period we're living in, and as well as trying to help with the cost of the insurance. I think roughly 50% of my full-time staff are single parents, so obviously it makes a big difference for them. So, and then I have a few items just real quick. First and foremost, I sent an agreement from IU Health for Tom to take a look at. Really what it is they said it's an agreement. It's more or less a glorified letter of support, in my opinion. But I wanted you to be aware that they were offering it. They're asking us to sign with them for their 340B certification for the entire hospital, which would include our satellite facility. The gist of which it is I think from our employee standpoint, would only be to agree on some dates when they do their activities and then help promote it. Let's say it's more of a glorified letter of support, but I think they need area community agencies to help sign on to get that 340B. And what 340B is guaranteed lowering of prices for certain services and in some cases free services. So I just wanted to ask that it be all right if the health department, the health officer and the board have already looked at it, but I definitely wanted you guys to be aware before we were to, agree with that. So.
Tom's reviewed it, so.
Yeah, it's really not a contract. It's
It's
more of
just
a,
kind of set up as one, so I wanted,
participate with this and this, that would be a great thing. But
So what will you be doing?
we'll only be looking at some dates where it might be a good time to maybe do free mammary screenings or
Okay.
free blood testing or something of that nature. And then when they tell us of the event, we might help them with promoting.
Okay.
So again, no real hourly commitment or anything to it, but again, I think I wanted you to be aware of it. But I think it's support for our community services, which are good.
So a lot of communication and spreading of the word to try and reach different groups of
Sure.
people for the services.
Making folks aware that it's available.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
We'll let you support as much as we can.
All right, thank you. Also, I brought along a hard copy and sent to Britt and also to Jerry The electronic versions, I'm not sure if you're aware, I know there's a lot of things going
I
on.
just forwarded them this
Excellent.
morning.
This is a Governor's Public Health Commission report that came out not too long ago. They've been doing this work throughout the last, I think, almost a year to 18 months. I printed off a copy because they send you an email with a link, and here's the attachment. Some folks like to read things on the screen, some don't. Also, there was a letter sent to all elected officials. Hopefully, they had your emails as well. It's a lot of information, but I think if anything, I'd ask that you might look at some point at the appendices and in reference to all the different IC codes that are responsibilities of the local health departments. But there is, I admit, a lot of info. The bottom line is, I think we're going to see, we hope that we're going to see, many years we've been 48th in the nation in per capita public health funding in Indiana. We've recently spiked to 45th in the nation in that, but this study is trying to take not only that factor, but what happened during COVID and all of the vulnerabilities that are already in the infrastructure for public health in Indiana and making recommendations. So I just wanted to make sure you know. I will also make sure the council is available or aware of it as well, because it'll have great impact, I'm hoping, in the next 3 to 5 years with funding available. But it's going to take a cooperative level at the local level as well for that to take effect. So the only other item I have been trying to hire somebody part-time to come in and help us with catching up with filing and some work that we fell behind during the pandemic. It has been difficult to find anyone right now. It's the same story everywhere, unfortunately. What I'd like to ask permission to do, I've got money in a line item already for this year's budget to offer to 2 of my full-time hourly employees the option to work up to the 4 hours that they take for their half day normally in a week, but no more than, if they elect to do so, to help us with getting some additional work on that.
Would it create overtime issues?
No.
No?
No.
All right. Then I would be fine with that, or I think another avenue, if they decline and you're still looking, don't hold me to it, but I believe there's services out there that you can hire to come and do that.
If it comes to it, I may have to. It seems like every time I get to a good candidate, one gets taken away instead. So, Al and I spoke at one time about this young lady here, but again, we're just, I think as we're starting to, again, kind of return to normal, we still see many things that are sitting here that we need to get caught up on before the next big thing hits, unfortunately, if something comes along. So.
Well, I support offering it to your current full-time.
As long as it doesn't go to an overtime.
Yeah.
Something.
I made it clear that we're limited and that won't be the case. So, and I know Britt's office will hold me to that as well. So I appreciate it. And again, thank you for all your hard work on behalf of the employees. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. We appreciate everything. So.
Rodney, real quick too.
Sure.
I've had some conversation with your doctor in reference to him retiring in the near future. I know it's still up in the air. Is there any direction yet from the board, or is there any more discussion about when or what?
I believe what I've done so far under the board and his direction was to, first of all, put into this year's coming budget monies to fund a part-time health officer. In other words, there's going to be a shadow period where the new one comes in, becomes the assistant for 1 year, the health officer stays, and then probably that next year flip it over. And then I would assume somewhere in between the first and second year, you'll probably hear him give us his final time frame. I think he would like to bestow upon the next candidate some of that vast experience that he has over the next probably year to 18 months before he finally steps away from it.
So you're thinking of bringing that person on then in January 1?
Yes, we have the funding to do so. I know there might be a couple, approval processes to do so, but I was instructed to make it financially available to do that. So I would anticipate we'll hear, we have in our next board meeting in November, I would make sure to think that they need to address what the final process and approval would be from that, so.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Any others? Okay, not seeing any, I will go to commissioner reports. Have any, Bert?
Pretty much mentioned everything I've been hit with, to be honest, already, so.
Yep, we kind of went through a lot of the stuff that's been on the plate for me here recently.
One quick question I'd like to ask Tommy is, several of the neighbors who are talking together that live on 425 or 500 both have asked if they can put rocks or flags in front of their driveway or yards. I know that.
Not if it's in the right of way.
That's my question, is how much of a right of way?
Yeah, the right of way, I think.
Every road's
Different, exactly. Every road's a little bit different, right?
They would probably, do you deal with right of way, Rick, or is it more Liz?
We deal with right away, yes.
So they could have you guys come maybe mark with a flag or something where the right of way is on these properties so people have an idea.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So maybe they can call out to the highway or reach Rick or reach you and they can put it there in their property.
Yeah, the county can always go out and put things up in the right of way,
Yeah.
since it is the county's right of way. So the neighbors, if they can't do it themselves, they can ask the county, hey, what can be done here in the right of way? And they can put them something great, or they can just communicate with the council. Thank you. They can say, try to do better job.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay. All right, we will move on to claims. We have claims dated October 14th in the amount of $14,577.13. Bi-weekly claims dated October 18th in the amount of $1,988,875.41. Court claims dated October 18th in the amount of $18,015.28. And a claim dated from 10/13 in the amount of $6,000.
Motion to approve claims.
I will second. We have payroll dated 9/23 in the amount of $437,716.38, and payroll dated October 7th in the amount of $430,859.31.
Motion to approve payroll.
Second. And lastly, we have minutes from our regular meeting on October 4th.
Motion to approve minutes on October 4th.
Second. Is there any other business that needs to come before the commissioners? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to approve.
November 7th, it's back here at the airport. So just a friendly reminder. Thank you.
What? Oh, yeah. Yeah, yes, yes.
So,